When one door closes,
another one opens.
Welcome to the True North Lifestyle Podcast. Hey, I'm Joe, and today I'm sitting here with my sidekick, Rick. Maybe I'm
Hello.
Rick's sidekick. I don't know.
one to the other.
And
Somebody's kicking somebody.
a couple of guys everyone knows. Old guy Mike
Morning.
Morning, buddy.
and Garnett Robinson.
Morning.
The legend.
Right up to the mic, Garnett. Right up to the
mic.
There we go.
What are you new at this?
You can pull it to you also.
No, I'm not new. Yeah,
He's going to be a pro by the end of that.
there we go.
So today kind of was a podcast we hadn't planned on, but we thought was really good to do. Is we recently lost Gordon Berry, who is Garnett's uncle, and so we thought we would take some time today, and Garnett's going to share some stories, not just hunting, but a little bit of everything. We tried quite a few times, didn't we, Garnett, to get Gordon up here?
Yep. Even, I don't know, he just, for quite a few years, you guys have mentioned about doing stuff. And
He was too busy fly casting or hunting.
I think he was too humble, is what it
Yeah.
was.
My uncle never put a deer in the Big Butts Club. He didn't do, he shot a lot of deer, and he shot a lot of, everything really, but he just he was more about other people getting stuff. So, and fishing, he liked fishing more than anything. So, and he did it. I grew up, and basically for me, him and Ronnie are my heroes.
So let's go back a little bit, Garnett, just on to get a feel for what he was to the area. So was it Gordon's dad that started the store, Barry's
Yep.
General Store in the Forks?
Yeah, my grandfather Clifton Berry started it in the 60s. Back when he started it, there's actually 3 stores in town. There was Webb's across the street, and they did tagging, and then up the street it's where North Country, the rafting place is now. That used to be a store, and I don't remember if that was McKay's or if it was the Yorks that owned it. But because Carol York had a logging outfit. Everybody up there did multiple jobs.
Yeah.
If you see Edmund Webb when he had the store, he also had a logging outfit. My grandfather had a partnership in a logging outfit. It was Chase and Berry Trucking, and then they did logging. He had an oil delivery business. He had a garage there. He worked at a garage in Bingham. He's a bus driver. They worked with my uncle's. He had a huge family, so I had my mother and sister, and then they had her sister Darlene, and then they had 3 boys, and then he had 4 boys. Excuse me, Mike, Jeff, Ronnie, and Gordon. And then when I was young, I always called Reno Valancourt from Bingham. He come from a really big family. Reno's my uncle, really. So, he had all of them there. My grandfather, this is where Gordon probably got it. He liked having kids like that, and they all ate fish, because a big family like that. They grew up only eating brook trout and smelts. And springtime, They'd go into Spencer, and they'd bring out milk cans and they ate them, and they ate tons of fish. They go out and catch come home, have big fish fries, and then they always shot deer, and they used to hunt with, Gordon hunted with, in town with Warren Ricker, and so did Ronnie. That's who they learned from, Warren and my grandfather. They both had different styles and the same.
I never knew Warren.
Well, he was old when I was young,
Yeah.
you would, but he killed more deer than any man alive in that town, because every day they used to shoot for their sports, and he'd bring Gordon and Ronnie, and they all could just shoot deer, and the sports would take
It was people have to understand too. It was a different time then.
Yeah.
It was just everything about it. It would be if someone did that today. Obviously, it would be super frowned upon.
Oh, absolutely.
But it was part of what they did.
Back then, they tried to get the sports to get their deer, but they wanted their sports to leave with the deer, because it was all about getting as much money into the town as for a short period of time. There's only people here for hunting, fishing, and logging. And
that was my question. Is I'm trying to think back to what the Forks would have been in the 60s and the 70s before rafting came along, because of course that's the big thing now.
Yeah.
So that was primarily, it was hunting, fishing, and logging.
Hunting, fishing, logging, and and then rafting really started in like the late 70s. I mean, I remember seeing Wayne Hockmeyer. If you go to where that is, that used to be my Uncle Tommy's. Tommy Berry owned all that land, and when he died, there was a restaurant there on the corner.
Huh. Yeah.
And then
Where Northern is?
yeah.
Okay.
And then my grandfather sold that to Wayne and them. Originally they just did their rafting from the front yard. You'd see Wayne out there with a bullhorn, and I tried to get, like I said, Harry Abraham on here because he'd fished and hunted and known Gordon before me because I wasn't born, and Lloyd Trafton was a game warden, up here. And everybody thinks I don't like game wardens, but I always call Gordon, and I always call Lloyd Trafton Uncle Lloyd, because we'd fished with them and done all kinds of crazy stuff, and way back. But they both, I tried to get them on there, and they're something about the guys from there. They just don't want to, everything's pretty much, they didn't do it for the notoriety. They just loved to do it, so they. And I tried to get them to come on, and they wouldn't. So yeah. I'm going to tell stories about them now because of that. But Harry'd seen them Gordon right before that. So Gordon, I think, knew, things were happening because he's showing me stuff that my whole life I've learned all my skills, hunting skills, fishing skills, all that from Ronnie and Gordon. Some from my father, but my father's, if you look at Ronnie, Gordon was only 15 years older than me, and Ronnie's like 12 or 13 years older. So when they were young.
Oh, Ronnie was younger?
Ronnie was a little bit younger.
Okay.
And Ronnie, if it came down to it, there's two different types of hunting they did. And, if you look at Ronnie, he's really the epitome of a killing machine, because like his approach was kind of the same as what Warren Ricker was, which is, he just knew deer. And then when there's snow, like Ronnie didn't do, like, if you read about the books where they're saying stop and wait and all that, his was just dog 'em, and he had a 12 gauge semi-auto Browning, and they just pop, and buckshot would be flying out at, the deer lay down. If you follow them long enough, they'll wait for you, they'll do something, and he was just singing lead, not worried about nothing, and that's how Warren Ricker hunted with a 300 Savage, the semi. Yesterday I was actually with Lee talking about his gun, Gordon's gun. They were, I don't even know the models, like we're out there. And so he's telling me what it probably was, and I'm sure it was. At Warren Ricker, they had that old 300 semi-autos that had, and no scopes on them then. Gordon had a scope on his gun because of Gramp said clear cutting. You're going to have to be able to reach out and touch them. And then he just always hunted with that afterwards. But when he was young, he hunted with a shotgun.
Yep.
When they fished, they both fly fished, and like Ronnie primarily liked the river more than anything, but he'd fish ponds. And Gordon really liked the ponds, but when he was young, he and I fished the river a lot, where we went in and fishing with the raft. I used to go in, and he had those camps at Fish Pond. If you go up along the side of that gorge,
I've been in there with you.
Yeah,
Fish
and
Pond,
and then those were my uncle's camps, and he has 80 acres, and the camps, they're old set of camps, and if you go in there, there's a huge history because they used to come in by the railroad and then walk in there. So
yeah, he hunted out of those camps quite a bit, you told me.
Yeah, back then they had a big forest fire in there, and then we'd go in. And my uncle really was gregarious. If you look at Gordon, the way he hunted versus Ronnie, was a guide, but is like he hunted mostly by himself, and if he's guiding, you put him in their stands, and then he'd walk around them, or he'd use my cousin Brian or I walk around, move deer,
move them around,
and then if you're looking at Gordon, he always liked to have a guy, somebody with him, and he knew Gordon, if he tracked or something, he figured out what the deer were doing. He knew all these crossings. We'd drive around. I know probably 50 crossings in different roads in different areas,
right,
from riding with him, and he's like, let's check the crossing that, and if I wanted to track, he knew I liked to track. Him and Brian would go down, and I'd follow a deer, and if I jumped it and it went on one of these crossings or a trail that he knew about, my uncle Gordon would always hunt a spot and then another spot, and then he'd stop and have a lunch in the middle of the day, and the stuff that Ronnie would go in the woods when the light's up. They had to stop me. I'd be walking in the woods, half dark, jumping deer because you can't see, and Ronnie finally said, if you want to really sit in the woods, we're going to go in early. You're going to stand there until the light's up. And that's kind of where, what I did with, if I go on my own, I don't go out looking for tracks in the roads because, like, everybody does that. I just go into these places I know there are deer, and when the light's up, I start moving. And
right.
Before that, if I get a chance at one, I'm going to shoot it, But when I was with Gordon, he always liked the 2 guys and 3 guys. And if I went with my cousin Brian and him, or Sammy and him, there's always action because Gordon just knew all these little spots. And he used to hunt with the McKays, And
Oh yeah, Billy.
the end of the season, they were our families are close, so Katie and I never cared for that kind of hunt because I never got anything. When I was young, I'd always be between marksmen. Deer be running at me, and then they'd shoot it. And I'd be a boy. So
You learn quick that way.
They
though,
let
don't you,
well,
Garnett?
when I was 10 years old, and then when I go with my cousin Brian, he used to shoot. He get deer no matter what. My cousin Brian's a really good hunter. When I was 10 years old, I'd hunt with Ronnie some. My Uncle Gordon always had my cousin with him. Even when he was like 8 years old, he'd be, so my cousin Brian really learned his hunting skill. My cousin Brian shot a lot of deer too, and hunts with the same gun that jams. He had to jam on a moose. I hunted with Gordon with the last 2 times he used that gun, and switched over, and Gordon got what I think was his last good buck a couple of years ago with me, and I felt good. I watched him kill it even. So it was a nice 10. He go, look at that big boy. And then, I stand there, and I never, I've never watched him kill a partridge. I've killed 1,000 birds because Gordon be like, there you go. And when I was a kid, if it was a deer, a giant deer, he didn't care. He did that with Sam. Back when they first started feeding deer, there's giant ones that were showing up at Pierce's. I mean, I'm talking 200-inch
I remember, yeah.
And he had Sammy with him, and they see one of those big ones, and Gordon's like, there you go. And he's like, we'll shoot together maybe, or no. He let Sammy just shoot at one of them giant bucks because, to him, it was just every time somebody got a deer, Gordon just loved to go fishing and take kids out to do stuff. I can't tell you how many people got their first deer or first trout or first learned to fly fish because Gordon just,
I remember back in the early 90s, there was one buck that I killed up by Harris Dam.
Yeah.
And he wasn't around because normally if I went in to tag it, he'd come out and weighed it, tagged it. He wanted to hear the story, everything, always. And he wasn't around. I can't remember who tagged that. Maybe one of the girls were working at the store. And so the next time
I don't remember who tagged all mine either.
Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me. So I stopped in on my way up, and all he wanted to do was hear that buck story, because he had heard about it. And so,
oh yeah.
And I think I killed him with a muzzleloader. He weighed 236, and he was like, wow, that's a big deal for the end of the season.
If you go up in there where you're talking about, we used to hunt there a lot. I go in looking for antlers in there a lot. We used to go into he had a canoe stashed up on Indian Stream, and we go in there, and before they cut around it and ruin the deer yard, used to be unbelievable. Muzzleloader season, my cousins and all them my Gordon lived for muzzleloader. If you ever see his deer, 99% of his deer were in the last 20 years, 30 years were shot during muzzleloader season, like the last day.
Yeah.
Or that's I wouldn't say all the deer shot, but that for him was like muzzleloader season, and you go in there, I'd hate it because I had them that gun would never go off. I'd be in there some days when you had a big snow year, sometimes you'd be in there and you could see 30 deer in a day, and you'd be like, the
Yeah.
thing would you shouldn't go like that, and the cap go off.
Sea caps we use.
Oh yeah, and you look at your. I had one time I had this big buck, and I was like looking at my gun, and it just shoots over that way, like because I'm like looking at it, like instead of staying aimed at it, and I'm like going, what? These are useless, and so you look at my cousin Brian. He hunted with him way more than I did the last 2 weeks every. In the last 10 years, Gordon fishing, same way. He always wanted somebody to teach. In the last 10 years, Wayne Kinney that had Belangers, that he started coming when he retired. He started taking him, and he's like, he's green, Garnett, but I'm gonna, and then he didn't really fly fish as much, and then for the, Gordon and him fished a lot during the summer. If you look at the course of the year, what's funny, what I'm kind of getting to is like, I didn't spend as many days with. You had certain guys who would do fishing, like Wayne. I've been when I was a forest ranger. I was basically getting paid to fish by the state, or hunt by the state, or look for antlers by the state, and plus I guided, and that's how I ended up with Hal and doing that. I worked at Tom Hegan. I worked at different camps all over. I worked at Addy Resort with the Holdens, and I need money. And I'd be down here unicorn chasing girls, and I guided, I mixed it up a little bit. Mike is smiling, but Mike lived with me.
Yeah.
Mike, we've never been allowed on the mic, but I know a lot of stuff about Mike. And he and I both, Gordon loved my stories with Mike.
I heard
Joe sweared he never let us in the same podcast.
No, my Uncle Gordon loved the stories with Mike because I
heard a couple of the living together stories.
Oh yeah, we did.
Hey, I want to add one thing about Gordon though, and I don't care who you were. You could be 10 years old, 100 years old. If you brought a deer in and he wanted to hear the story, he made that person feel like they killed the biggest buck in the whole world before you left there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
People, I want to go tag with that. That guy was great. They all wanted to go down and see Gordon. Everybody.
Well, when I was a kid, he didn't really go in the store at all. Like when I was little in hunting season, he'd work hundreds of hours all the way around, and even since when he was 10 years old. About the time they started, 9 or 10 years old, and Harry's like, I remember first memory I have of Gordon, because he worked with my grandfather, Harry Abraham, worked with my grandfather down in Bingham at a garage. My grandfather had all these jobs, like I was telling you. He said his first memory is like Gordon dressed up in an Esso suit. They had that, and they had to be pumping gas and cleaning people's windshields and going in. Gordon loved to work, and my grandfather, like I said, he had a logging outfit. Gordon, when he was a kid, cut grid, and when he, for a geologist with Billy and them, my father was the head of that.
What's cutting grid?
They laid. You had to take a compass, and you'd lay out squares where they'd put wire in the ground. They would set off dynamite, and they could read what was in the ground.
Oh, seismic.
They do something like that. And my father was a geologist. That's how he met my mother. And
what were they looking for? Gas or oil?
No, my father was a mineralogist for humble oil.
Yeah.
And so they were here doing, they bought the mineral rights when my father was here. And my father was Canadian. He's from family of guides, my grandfather, his father had moved here. He was the head of procurement for Oxford Paper. So that's he'd been all the Oxford Paper became Boise. Any place you saw Boise, that was my grandfather. And but he was a wood buyer. He went around, and then he also was a forester. So my father, he learned a lot about the woods from him. My family's been guides forever, and same with the Berries. Like Gordon was a guide when I was young. He's the only guide that didn't want to get paid to guide, because there's a funny story he had with other guys, but he just let it go. When I was really getting into guiding, I needed the money. He was basically not, but I've never seen anybody be more of a guide than Gordon, because he wanted to take people and teach them. I can sharpen saws, I can cut and sharpen knives, I can do. I learned to cut up deer. I learned all that stuff from Ronnie and Gordon and my grandfather and my father quite a bit. But it's And I went to all these. I'm the most fortunate kid in the world because I had Gordon and them shot so many deer. You know, that by the time they were young like that, they'd shot so many and big deer. You know, and like they made fun of me. Like I said, I got my first big buck. I thought it was, you know, I wanted that patch, and that's the only one I won't give away. So there's no more bikinis, or I'm not doing any. I got baptized with, you know, I'm being good now. But I had, you know, they made fun of me when I come in. Ronnie's like, "You got a patch," you know, like, and, you know, and he'd shot the biggest deer in the state before, and I was like, "Well, yeah, I got one." But I was like, and then they kind of, then I wanted to be more like them, and I got on a tear for a while, and then now I realize like I want to be more like Gordon. I had a kid I was taking out last year, and her name's Lily Murphy. Her parents are father's from Ireland. I took her out last year, and she actually got 150 something pound doe on her own.
I thought you were going to say 150 inch.
No. She actually had a chance right after that. She was with me and had a chance had a crotch horn walk right up, probably 20, 30 feet from us, go up by.
Oh yeah.
She was shaking and let it go, and she goes, I think my doe was bigger, and she see all some of my racks and all that. And she goes, figured you'd show me a bigger one. But the funny thing is like, and we did see bigger bucks, but
she had big expectations from you.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I had so much fun, and that's, you know,
what it's all about.
She had so much fun, and then she had a chance at big ones. I could have killed the big one. She just didn't know. She's never known, and you know, I actually started. I didn't realize my mentor was going to be a little girl. You know, so not mentor, but I mean protege was going to be a little girl. And I told Gordon about her and then going fishing, and he was so pumped to go take her fishing, and he's supposed to, you know, like, I don't remember why she couldn't go in June. We went on the last fishing trip with Sally, and Sally's getting done from teaching. She'd been a teacher just going to freeze her retirement. They were changing her program, and she just
good for her. That's
I
good.
let her get done. And, well, I can't say that. Boy, that'd be bad. She decided to get done.
I think she'd get it.
She decided. But anyways, she's, you know, but he had Gordon there, and I can't even. Yeah,
she'll straighten him out. Don't worry, boys.
Well, she went the last couple. We got anytime he went with Gordon and I and her. He always threw her in the canoe and teaching her to fish. And this last time, he's like this. When he heard that, he's like, "Boys, we're going to be able to go, but you can't tell Garnett the places I'm going to show you."
So I got something to ask you though.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine that Gordon was way better at netting Sally's fish than you.
That's probably true. Yeah. And he actually.
I heard you lost a few big ones.
Oh, I've lost some giant ones on her. Yeah, and I just she's had the biggest trout that I've seen in Maine. She got one 5 pounds. She got one that was over 5 pounds that Doris weighed in the store way back. And
wow.
The day I got 1 inch shorter, but right before that she'd lost one looked like a togue. That same day, we had the 3 biggest fish, you know, in that pond I'd ever seen, and we fished it, and then Gordon, she went out and bought a long net for me, you know, because I had a little net. You know, Mike knows that.
She told me he hit it in the head on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Well, broke her line off because of what I did. But Gordon actually, he brought us into a spot and it was so full of fish. He was just so happy.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't let us paddle. You know, my uncle's had all these heart problems. He's hurting. And he's like, my whole life I've always had to be in the, you know, back when he canoe raced, he was always the, you know, up in the
stern
bow.
I'm Oh, he was in the bow.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
Alan
really?
York. Yeah, and back in the races, he was always in the front. I've never once been in the front of back of a canoe with Gordon. Never once.
Really?
I've only paddled him a couple of times in a boat, only because he and I were big enough that we had to sit at opposite ends, and I was sitting in the boat. You want to go backwards, you know, and be able to paddle it.
So everyone knows Gordon. Like I think a lot of people know him obviously from the store because they're in there all the time. And when I'd hear a lot of these stories, it was sometimes surprising to me because I'm like, well, how can he do that and be in the store? Because he was always in the store when I would go in. He was there, especially the early mornings. I mean, he was
right, but he was only there for about an hour.
I guess I was always seeing him early mornings.
Right, because if you came up at like 6 to 6:30 a.m., Gordon was always in the store. He opened it every morning. But if 7 o'clock he was gone and one of the girls would come in, I'd say, "Where's Gordon?" "Oh, he's headed off antler hunting," or "Oh, he's fishing a pond. He's headed so-and-so," and here, there. So he had his days planned out.
Well, it was, he did we talked about, you're sitting here telling all the deer and the fishing, and for me it was the shed hunting that I was always talking with Gordon. And he loved to shed hunt. Yep. He loved sheds. He loved seeing sheds. And in fact, that was the last time that I really spent any time with Gordon was I found the biggest shed that I've ever found this year. And I went over and saw you, and then I said, "You think Gordon's down at the store?" "Nope, he's probably at the house." So I stopped by the house, and we visited for, I don't know, quite a while. I was over there for a bit talking shed hunting, and he was really rooting for me to find that other side.
Oh, he loved it. I can't, like, I took him antler hunting this spring even, and he'd get a big stick, and he couldn't really walk the way he should, and he still tried. He's one of these. I brought him in places I used to go. I go in, like, way back. I spend a lot of time, like, I was shed hunting when I was little with him. Back then we used to go in the deer yard, so we go into Indian Stream or Cat Heart or down by the river or by Grand Falls, or if you go on the other side, that used to be a big
Cat Heart
deer.
used to have a heck of a deer
yard.
Yeah, man, that was it.
Yeah. So, but they cut it all off when I was young,
They just cut it again.
Yeah, so I mean, they won't let it come back, I guess.
Well, now his backyard is a deer yard.
Yeah.
And I know it kind of irritated me, and even though Gordon was such a nice guy, he would never say anything about it. He never posted his land, so anyone could come in there. And when shed hunting has gotten so popular and everyone's got dogs, he's got all these guys that aren't even from the area coming up and shed hunting in his backyard. And it used to irritate me just because as it was harder for him to get around, at least he should be able to have his backyard to go and pick him up.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't. He was such a good guy to everyone. I think that's, the stories I've heard from so many people is, the number of people that he would carry a tab for if they were, hard down their luck. And, at Huntstock this past weekend, Taylor Walker was telling me when he came to town.
Yeah, Taylor,
he had no money, and Gordon let him come in there and get what he needed and everything.
Yeah,
hey, just pay me back later, chum.
Yeah, give him a 30-day tab, he said.
If you go in there, they have all these books of people that come in, and all the guides if they didn't. So he did tons of, I can't explain how many people we plowed for. He did in the same thing, like when he was young, my grandfather did the same type stuff, and they'd want to, like, people in town that old and they couldn't get deer, they made sure that they had deer. They might have to tag one back then or something, but if somebody wanted, I remember, like, this person needs this or whatever, and my uncle, like back then, if they shot a deer, they'd be, here you go. And that was not modern. I wasn't part of this.
There was always a list back in those days. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah,
you had a list of the people you took care of. The first deer went to this guy. The other deer went to that family. And the listeners gotta understand. It's different when you had needed the meat to live, and it was part of your life, and people don't even have a clue what that means nowadays. They go,
well, if you look now, it's like the people that are there. They weren't. I mean, when we grew up, they either worked in the woods, they lived there, drove a truck, like in the woods for Scott Paper, did woods on the pulp drives. Like, there's even seasonal work. My mother, one of her best friends growing up was an Indian girl, I say Indian, they're native, but they come here to work on the pulp drives in the spring, and my mother knew how to make baskets and stuff from that. And Gordon and them, they used to play with the Kennedys. They'd camp out over at Webb's, and Edmund Webb was a guide. I mean, everybody up there had to do all these multiple jobs to survive there. And there's, like I said, there was those 3 stores. Ida had a store in the Moxie. There's a store in the Carrotung. In a 5 or 10 mile square radius, there was 5 stores back then. And my grandfather, he had an oil business and gas business, a logging business.
Right. Well, like Mike just said, when we were young, I can remember when I was young, there was 0 programs to help people out in the state of Maine. The only money you had was what you went out and earned.
That's right.
So
they all worked. Yeah.
When winter was coming, like Gordon and Ronnie and all them, you made sure everybody in the family, the grandparents, great-grandparents, all of them needed meat for the winter. And we'd shoot deer for whoever needed deer.
Yep.
That was the way it was.
Those are like we went smelting. I'd always go smelting like we did. And go with my uncle Ronnie and Gordon. They just did it since we were young, and half of that stuff we give away. And I go down like Lloyd Trafton, and he likes little trout, 6 to 8 inches. And that's what he wants is just a feed of those. We stop and give them to people that don't get out. We always went fishing, like I was telling you about, when I was young, we'd go out with Billy McKay a lot. And he'd come up. I remember going, Carol York and Billy McKay and this George Morris. I was telling you, his dad was Bert Morris, the one when I foolishly jumped off that bridge and landed there. That's his father. He shot deer for the prisoner of war camp. So how many deer do you need to feed 100 German POWs and everybody and Moose? Back then you had a permit to do it. So they did all this. And they trapped, and like I sent you a picture, I think, of the furs, didn't I? Of a store covered, and like Gordon, when I was a kid, he trapped, and that was my favorite thing is trapping with them because it's so fun. We'd go, and that's why he did all these little adventure type stuff. When I was a kid, I'd go metal detecting with him. He's the only first person who could afford a metal detector is my Uncle Gordon, and we'd go around the hotels and getting. Ronnie had the bottle collection, and Gordon we find an axe head or find different stuff around, go in there, and then we go gold panning. He had a dredge, and I'd have a little goggles and like freezing to death in gold.
Did you find much gold?
Yeah, I actually did, and it's funny. I was talking to Andy Webb, his mom. After they closed their stores, they come over and work for Gordon Marie. She's French. Yeah. She's such a sweet, just the most wonderful lady. And she come over and she's cleaning. And Gordon kept all his gold in the gold, and they had the case where you see where Brandon has all his boxing stuff.
Right.
Gordon loved Brandon's boxing, but he had all this gold in these ribs, put it in the ribs there, and she thought there was dust. And she vacuumed, and he's like this, and Gordon's like this, and he's like shaking his head, and he's like, "Well, I couldn't be mad because he's working, such a." But she vacuumed up all the gold. He didn't know till he tried to find it in the, like he didn't, but she didn't mean to. It was
So was that out on the Goldbrook Road?
Oh, he did a lot of it. There's a whole bunch of, if you go with him, he just had these places, and he's the only guy I knew had a dredge, back then. And we go in the Dead River, and we did different places, and we go like that, and gold panned with him, and like I said, he did every kind of. Back when I was a kid, he had more girlfriends. He had. I was young. He had a Triumph motorcycle. So you wouldn't picture when he was young. They're all telling the story. He went in, and I can't remember who it was. One of the Pierces or something, Johnny Pierce or Bobby Pierce. I'm not sure who was there, but. He come in, the bridge was out at Salmon Stream, and he come flying in with his Triumph and jumped the stream, landed it on a Triumph, that's a road bike, not a. He was a wild critter back in the day, and he was just like a more fun loving, like when I was young, I remember being. He probably wouldn't want me to tell him the story, but I'm going to tell it anyways because Gordon, you're not here.
I bet he is.
Yes, I bet he is.
Yeah, when I see him, he's in heaven because I actually, last time I see him, I was joking with him. I like I said, I got baptized, so I'm a good boy now, Gareth.
Why does he keep saying that?
I'm just trying to. Well, I know all these ladies you're on here, and you bring me on to bring up your women clientele. That brought you on for the older ones, me. And we got Marie and we got Sally now, so we can't.
He's just trying to confirm.
I have to. And Gordon always liked when I say stuff about Candace. So hey Candace, but no, I mean he was.
Wait, you were starting on a story there.
I was starting on a story because he had more girlfriends, more And when I was young, I remember he was big in canoe racing. Him and Alan, and I remember like bragging to everybody. We were at Kenduskeag where they start off. Well, streaking was big back then. Like Gordon, they were paddling. I was like, that's my uncle. Like that. And I was like this, and they're coming. They just, how they go under the bridge. I don't know if you've been to Kenduskeag, but they have to go under a bridge. And then I stand down there on the side of the road with my grandmother and Francine. All of a sudden, my uncle jumps up and goes, whoop, 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 like that. And he's streaking them, like in that. And back then, and then they paddled. And I think they might have won, but he was just as wild. He's so fun loving.
Yep.
We get in there and he'd tell stories, like if we were there, and he always called them. Like when we were in the woods, it's like, he, for a guy that hates, it was funny. I was telling Lee on there, but it's like he hated technology, hated phones, hated everything about that. But he had radios when they first come out with radios. Him and Billy McKay and all them, and they all had code names because they didn't want to use their name on the thing.
I'm sure no one would ever recognize their voices.
Yeah. Well, I've got some
Especially
videos.
Billy McKay.
I am. Billy and my uncle have pretty unique accents and voices, but they was, they go on there, and my uncle's code name was Big Buck. And I don't know, remember if Brian Little Buck. There's a, Sammy White they hunted with. I don't know, and like I said, mine could be crazy. Who knows what it was? But I never had a radio. I'd show up, and they'd be, I'd be out there just blindly wobbing around, doing whatever. They
were talking about you, and you never knew it.
They probably did. And the thing is the last 2 weeks, my Uncle Ronnie didn't really. He hunted on his own a lot and guided a lot, so I did a lot. Like when I was a forest ranger, I was poor, so Gordon knew that, and he was, I don't know, like I said, him and Ronnie were my heroes. They did everything that I wanted to do. I told my parents I was going to drop out of school. I was going to guide. I'm going to guide a little bit. I said, I'll cut a little bit of wood. And then my father scared me out of that. And that's how I went to college. He went down and he goes, we got to price out a skidder if you're going to cut wood. And I was like, that's a lot of wood, I was like,
that's a lot more than I wanted to cut.
That sounds like you're thinking I'm just going to cut wood, Dad. I'm really going to guide.
So were you cutting with a buck saw or a
chainsaw? They were showing me with the
old cross cut.
I was like, I planned on having maybe firewood. I don't know what I was going to drop out. Like probably my biggest hero then was Ronnie. Which was like scared him, I think.
People still talk about Ronnie to this day, like he was here yesterday.
Ronnie, if truth be known, had less control over stopping himself. Then Gordon always, when he was out there, was always like he wanted the difference with Gordon and Ronnie. Gordon was always about the other guy. If you were with him and you haven't, like, hey Joe, there you go. Like he'd be if you'd. Especially if he knew, like, he was just loving that this little girl was going to come up and go. And then Sally, he's like, like he was all set to do fishing trips. He goes, we're going to go fishing, but you can't tell Garnett where we're going. You can't give on, joking, because we went around just, when I grew up, I was the luckiest kid there's ever been because,
So, I watched a video. You talk about the canoe racing and stuff, and I watched a video that they put on Facebook. I think it was Brandon and Gordon were going deer hunting, and it must have been Moxie they were crossing, but the water was
video. You guys
I saw that.
The water was high. Now I didn't know before this. I knew Gordon from the store, and I knew he was a big buck killer back in the day and a shed hunter and fisherman and all this. No clue about the canoe part. He handled that canoe this is just a couple years ago.
Yep.
So he wasn't a spring chicken. And he handled that canoe like a boss going across that stream. And I was like, holy cow, man, that was pretty cool, you know? So then I went down and talked to him about it and told him and found out that he used to race. And then you started telling me, and you sent the picture from years ago. I think hopefully we can put it on here, but it's when you know Gordon from the store at this age, then you see him back then. I mean, he was in shape and ready to go. Man. He was.
I mean, like you guys you're on here and with my uncle. I feel so fortunate to be able to talk about him because, and I've been contacted by lots of other people, and they're just all asking about Gordon. And I'm like, when I was a kid, like I said, they're opposites. Ronnie would be going into work in the woods in the morning. And he'd pick me up at like 4:30. And we go fish the river, different spots. He just knew the river. Like, he could cast, like, the river runs through it. He could cast like that.
I got to tell you this little story. So just this weekend at the show, Andrea McLean, you know Andrea?
Yeah.
You met her? Well, when she moved up to Maine, she started guiding, she was telling us. And the first person that taught her everything was Ronnie.
Yep.
He taught her how to cut firewood. She said she cleaned camps. Ronnie taught her how to cut firewood. Yep. She'd ride around with Ronnie. He taught her how to hunt and taught her how to fish, taught her how to fly cast.
It's funny how all these guys have young ladies as their students.
Well, I mean, when you get I would take a young kid, but it's like, I don't know why. The father's always, you know what I mean? Like, when I've guiding, I tried to get... A couple of years ago, I said I wanted kids, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And like when you let me take your daughter out, I mean, I wanted her to really kill something, you know. Like
she will. You guys, that story's not done
yet. I've shot a lot of deer to the point where I enjoy watching somebody get them. So I mean, there's a point.
My wife still says to me, right now, because she knew Ronnie way back.
She knew him way back. Way back.
I was fishing one night. I'm casting. She goes, boy, I never see anybody cast a line like Ronnie. And I look at I'm casting away. She goes, Ronnie, he could cast further than you.
I can't.
Mike's going, what about me?
Yeah, I know. Gordon, I never see anybody cast like Ronnie.
Gordon can cast like unbelievable too. They both learned from my grandfather, I think, or somebody, but they cast the same way. But Ronnie was like, river runs through it. Gordon's about catching stuff.
Yeah.
If you go in, you know what's funny? When we were at your deer thing you were doing, Whiskey Dan was there, and he's been fishing with Gordon the last 2 years. Right. He changed his whole rod because of
Gordon.
Because, like, you know, you see these guys go out there, and, like, I sometimes still go out with a light rod just to play around. But my Uncle Gordon, they'd make fun of us because I'd have a 7-weight, he'd have an 8-weight when the big flies were up on top because you want to get it on them, you know, and he had that Whiskey Dan with him, and the first time they brought him into Coldstream or one of them, when they had the big hexes out, you know, them fish, you only got like an hour, and then they're up on top. Yep. You want to just land it on it. You know, you want to cast quick.
Yeah, so you want to go from over here to
over there. And my uncle would have an 8-weight, and then
right.
I was talking to him. He goes, I traded in the 5 and got I don't know Dan's last name. I keep calling him Whiskey Dan, but he's telling me, he goes, I got a 7-weight because of Gordon.
Dan Williams.
Gordon was still alive. You know, we were just talking about it. He goes, I've been fishing with him the last couple of years, and they're going in, and he switched his rod because Gordon
told me he got a new rod.
Yeah, because Gordon, when you go out there, how it is when you go in, and if you got something up on top, you want to land it on it. You know,
that heavier rod too, because they used a heavy tippet.
Yeah,
because them flies are big.
Right.
Well, if they used the lighter rod and tippet, the fly would.
Yep.
The tippet would get wound. It would spin up on you. You know, you had that happen a million times.
Well, and it'll tie a knot in itself if you're too light.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So that heavier stuff, them bigger flies,
lay it out quicker.
When I was a kid, Gordon and Ronnie, I don't think owned a sinking line, and then we'd go with Harry Abraham, and he always liked to fish down deep. And then finally at the end there, Gordon switched and he put on a sinking line, tube flies, and fishing down. But most of it was he liked to fish up on top and watch the fish.
I was the same way most of my life. I never fish sinking a line till probably the
I
last
want,
5
like-
years.
I guess I only got halfway to that story because we started talking about Ronnie. But I fish when you say you're lucky, I come up and I live 2 weeks, and I'd come up 2 weeks at a time or something like that, stay at my grandparents'. Ronnie would show up on the way to go in the morning and fish the rivers, and at night Gordon would just throw me in the truck and we'd go to a different pond every single night, fishing a different pond. I fished, I can't tell you how many, my lifetime, like I said, Wayne Kinney probably fished more time with him in the last 10 years. And Sammy White used to hunt with him like pretty much through the whole season. And back when I was a forest ranger, I needed money. I guided. I did all this, and I hunted on my own. But at the end, I'd hunt 1 or 2 days with Brian and him. I can't tell you how many deer every time that Brian, Gordon, and I hunted together.
Killed the deer.
A lot of big deer, and like I said, he never. He shot a lot of big deer, but he never put any of them in the big bucks club.
Right.
He kind of, like I said, him and Ronnie made fun of me with my first one, and then they didn't realize though, like when I taught the girls into wearing one like a bikini, because there was a use to having them patches and like. And then
I still got a bikini over in Rockwood.
I had people, believe it or not, when you guys were doing the show there, I had people writing to me like I just did something wicked wrong, giving them patches away. But yeah, they did really. But I to me, like
they went to a good cause.
I love Rick. I've known him for quite a long time, and I'd rather have him up as a story, like than.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of back when I was,
guys
look like me. I see. I'm not pretty like Mike. Mike didn't have. He had less work to pick up the girls back in the day.
You guys know
he and I lived together. I know, and he won't dare say a word about because
I'm saying everything we ever get a chance. I'm telling all the stories.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
I would.
And even fishing back then, So.
There was
we used to fish.
There was a story where someone came home unexpectedly and
no.
Was
that you and I? But him and I?
No, you don't want that. You don't want that one on
okay.
Here. You know who was there and I come walking in.
I remember the night I left you.
You're laying on the floor, Mike.
Oh, that one.
No,
we're not telling that one. No.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's where he's going with that.
I'm pretty good about telling anything. And I am, and I'm not telling them.
Me
But
either.
One night I went out to
I
the bar.
heard that one.
I went out to the bar one night, and I was leaving, and Garnett was staying he was there, and he goes, well, if you get 2 women, bring one home for me. He says this, huh? About 12:30, I come walking in, I got 2 women with me, right? Well, so I bring them in, Garnett's sitting there. Head out is just his ruse, right?
Who's like? Remember your girlfriend? That he was like, he had one girl that I'll
You're
tell you.
gonna ruin the story. I know.
No. He had one girlfriend that he goes like this. He goes. She wasn't supposed to, he had 2 women from Canada, because I don't remember French or whatever. And I was like that. He looked out and his girlfriend pulled in the yard, and I had to sit there like that.
I forgot about that.
And then she hated my guts. We're up there. Remember the bear hunt?
It's all your fault.
We're there, and the guy Buford, remember, they had the machine gun.
Yeah.
He was like that, and he's showing us book. Remember the book was full of it's at first was bears, and then all of a sudden he flip it open. He got retired from the New York police.
Yeah.
Killed these guys, like in shootouts. He had pictures of them in his and I'm like this, and he flip it open, and I could look up there, and you see Mike looking out, and you could see I was down there with a beer. We had a machine gun. He had a 50 caliber machine gun. And we're showing that, and then like Gordon loved this story actually, because but we're flipping through, and I'm going, because I haven't really seen that many dead people. I was like that. No, and this guy Buford had been in Vietnam, and like these guys that had been there, like he had like 2 sets of ears, like necklaces. All of a sudden you see from Vietnam, while Mike comes running down, like he looked like
wearing ears around his neck.
No, he didn't. He was no. That was in Vietnam. Those other guys.
They were bear ears, Rick.
No, they're bear ears.
Dried.
No, this was
Dried ears.
No, these were guys. You know, all the
Yeah.
guys that come up been Marines back then.
But they were bear hunters.
When they're up there bear hunting.
were
Well,
bear hunters.
all of a sudden you see like Mike come running down. He wanted to see what's going on. I'm holding this gun, which weighed, I don't know, it's heavy.
50 calories.
They're giant guns.
yeah.
Mike goes like this. He goes, hey, give me, yeah, I'll take that. I put it on him. He goes, get that off. He's like, it's heavy like that. And then he's like this. I said, show him your trophy book, Buford. See, Mike. And then we get up to the lodge, and like everybody's talking about bears, and like somebody asked, I don't know, Hal or somebody, they were like, how are the bears the coats this year? And he goes, black and shiny. And Mike's sitting there, we're sitting there eating, been drinking. All of a sudden he's like, they go, kind of like the first one I got. And I'm like this, and you see Mike just like put his fork down. And then the guy gave us a tip. Remember, like we went out and shot this machine gun. I didn't realize
50 cal.
I don't remember how much them shells were, but they had tracers and stuff. I go, I hope Steve Coleman comes by. Remember, I was like, with his plane. I was just like,
But the game warden showed up.
Oh yeah, Glenn Feeney come up.
Right, because you guys were shooting, and what the hell
Well,
was going
we
on
shot
up
a
here?
bucket.
The old
Yeah.
man said one shot apiece.
And we opened it up.
Yeah, right. Sure, one shot. Well, you know we're not going to do that, right? So Garnett and I up there, blah, 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 blah. Well, geez, everybody in town thought it was a freaking air raid or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
showed
Feeney
up.
comes flying in the driveway sideways. Remember how pissed
Yeah.
he was?
Oh, yeah, he
What's
was.
going on up here? Nothing. We're just shooting the gun. He goes,
I
I
know.
don't think this is a good idea.
Where in town were you shooting?
Behind the lodge.
behind the lodge
Oh,
into the
geez.
bank. Yeah.
Under that, the old
Like I said, I was hoping to. I was like, we were probably had a few drinks. I don't know. I was like this. I go. I hope Steve Coleman comes by with his plane. I see tracers coming.
I'm
up
glad I wasn't flying around. Then. Holy
But
cow.
getting back to, I brought the two girls back there. It was more of a joke than anything, right? So kind of sitting there in his underwear. So we come in. One girl I brought home. She knew Garnett. She didn't like him. So remember
She already knew him.
She turned around, walked out.
brings
Sure.
brings two and tells the wrong one.
Yeah,
She had your number, buddy.
yeah. She walked in. She looks at her friend, and out the door she goes, and I'm going, what's that all about?
So you guys know the bikini story, right? So he gives me this. We had the bet on the bikini. Whoever got the biggest buck, the other one had to wear a bikini.
It wasn't. I don't remember that part, but
That's the only part I do remember going.
Yeah, yeah. So
well, I lost. you
so
know?
he gives me this like extra large bikini, right? And it won't fit my wife. It's too big, and because he put two main antler and skull patches, and then down on the bikini bottom he put a biggest buck in Maine patch, right? So he give up three of his patches, and he framed it in glass, and he gives me a hammer with it, so that if the right woman comes along that wants to wear it, we can break the glass real quick and get it out.
I was trying to talk. At first, I was like, I was thinking we'd get Sally or Nancy in it, but pretty much they swear a lot's what I found out. You know,
Him.
at me. Yep.
But
really.
you seen those? What is it? The fire thing there in case of emergency with a hammer break the glass.
Well, the reason it comes back to that, and Gordon knew about the bikini I had made for her name.
But
back in the day, she lived there at Unicorn. So.
I figured girls were going to be waiting in line to wear that thing,
Yeah,
right?
I would too.
Right, but nobody's come forward
Well,
yet.
well, you needed those Unicorn rafter
So
girls.
now's your chance. Now's your chance.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty wild back in the day.
Oh,
This place here was like I said, Gordon knew all of them. I used to raft, and I drank way too much back. Like I can go to I haven't been to a Forts Field Day in 30 years, and now everybody that was there I think's gone. So I can now his memorial down there. I'm gonna go back because like Gordon was there, and I was there with Ronnie dancing, and I just I wanted to be like Gordon and Ronnie, and turns out for a while there I was more like Ronnie than Gordon, and now the last 20 years I've spent like 50 or 60 days a year with my Uncle Gordon, antler hunting, doing that, and
Good you did.
And then he taught me more about people make fun of me or whatever, like they probably do, and I deserve it. But I've shot. I wouldn't have shot the deer I've shot. I wouldn't have caught the fish I've caught. I wouldn't have done any of the stuff I've done. Gold panning, all the things that I've done up here. I've found arrowheads. I found everything you can imagine doing that.
You know what?
Guys.
One thing I want to say, and older people, like the whole younger generation of hunters, fishermen, whatever we are, don't realize that when you spend a day with an older person that's done something, like Gordon, his whole entire life, and just that whole day, one little tip that you never knew that you just went, it's like standing still in time. It's like, and it changes your hunting and fishing style and career the rest of your life.
He had tons of that, and
right.
Like you saw the thing with Darren Bissett. He's like they all once we did he's a great singer and a family friend, and he did a tribute for Gordon. But they go up once a year and they'd hunt up in they call it the river camp. My grandfather had it. It's up on the river, and they go up there and they'd hunt, and my cousin Brandon and Gordy and that, and my hopes is that they still keep going and doing that.
Got to keep doing it.
I want them to go do it, and I had Brandon's gun with Lee doing that throwback thing, and I really hope he goes out and shoots a big buck with that. And last year that was the best thing Gordon had, because they came back from that, and I'll say it the way I said it to him. I was like, "Where'd you get that, Gordon?" I was talking to my uncle, and he goes, "No, Gordy shot his deer," and they went in on Gordon's seat. Gordon had a spot. If we were, like I said, Gordon would hunt during the day, and then right before dark, we every now and then we go sit someplace. If he's by himself, he just had one spot on the river there. And he shot tons of deer to come through. It's just natural corridor, and Gordy went in there and got I don't remember if it was 220 or 225.
Oh, it was a beautiful buck.
But for an 8 point, it had these curved up points. It's just a beautiful deer, and wide is one of the bigger racks shot last year. And I just Gordon was just so happy that he got that up at his spot, And I was like, I just hope they go, and I'm going to show, if they want to go in and see where his canoes and stuff in different places, I'd love to take them and show them what he showed me, because
you better do it.
You can, when first few days after Gordon passed, Brandon put a post up, and you can tell by looking at something like that how loved Gordon was and how much he meant to people, because it was like unbelievable amount, like over 1,000 comments and hundreds and hundreds of shares, and how many people he touched. And I made the comment to someone, I hope they're prepared for the amount of people that are going to come to the ball field on Sunday, because it's going to be big.
Well, I know when they, like for Brandon and them, they just they were young when I was, I was closer in age to Gordon and them, but he's my absolute hero, like I said, and same with Ronnie. And I think most people know I've killed a lot of deer, so, and I'm getting one a year now. But especially
just be thankful for the memories you have.
I'll throw that,
Garnett.
and I mean
I know you are.
He's like I've dragged it, like when the funniest thing when my wife's father come up, we'd stay there and he'd joke around. He'd like Garnett's a pretty good hunter, because I'd shot quite a few deer down with them, around. They knew I'd help some of them getting deer and stuff, and Gordon goes, Garnett's a pretty good dragger. Because whenever we go hunting, half the time, him and Brian and he'd say we'd show up and we'd have to drag a deer up to the road or something.
You were built for it.
I'd show up, and then Gordon would be like, "Hey, let's go hunting. You and Brian ain't gonna go." I was like, "All right, I'll come down." I go like this. We got something we got to do first. And like we'd have to drag a deer out.
Shoot one down. Shoot one down over a cold stream.
Oh, wait, I'm telling you what, he's like
Garnett, can you get that up
my
top for us? Right?
my uncles had no qualms about where you get a deer. I've never been with anybody that's like my uncles. They're like, you go where like
Go where they go.
and wherever that deer is, you kill it, and you're gonna get it out.
Yeah.
And like I've been in monstrous dragging sessions that are just, and I've done it to myself now. And I'm getting to the age now. Maybe I do need to hunt with somebody younger. And
I was going to say, lose my number, Garnett.
Yeah, right.
Well, with Leah, you didn't tell me the day before. Like when I took her, I was like, if I'd known, no matter where we went,
Oh, come on now.
I would have went right.
Call anytime, Garnett.
There's
There
always
was one
somebody.
spot where I
Yeah.
could have ended up with her, like, because the deer went up through there, and it was one where, like,
Yeah.
I'm not a great tracker, or like you guys, like Rick or whatever.
There's
But I
always
know
somebody
when
that
I'm-
will come drag a deer. I tell you right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You know
Like-
what's funny is I've always dragged every single deer I've got, even when I ripped my stomach all the crap with Gordon. That was done with Gordon. Every time. A lot of my big injuries come with Gordon. I had to go when you talk antler hunting. My uncle's back when you did snowmobile like that. He's the wildest man you ever see with a snowmobile, because wherever he wanted to go, we were going. We had an up over by Pierce Pond once, and you go down Pierce Pond streams where
Oh,
the
yeah.
smelt, that you see on
Yeah.
the other side. Well, down below, there's another stream comes in. I don't know, is that Kerry? There's one of them, like, we went up their old road. The bridge was out, and just two logs, and he goes across first. Big set of falls there, and I was like, he looked back and smiled at me, and I'm like, the whole top of all the snow come off. I'm like looking at him. Then I went across, and he goes, "We're not coming back this way." But we did. We come down the Appalachian Trail down by the stream, and then had to ride that shell ice. All these crazy
Oh,
things
yeah.
what I did when I was a kid with him. Just like I'd never done the stuff I'd on yourself out there.
You wouldn't do that
You
now.
wouldn't do it. Well, Rick and his dad were like that, because I'd never,
yeah.
like I said, I'd never gone where he needed ropes snowmobiling, and that's what they did. And
Every day
Gordon,
was an adventure. Every day.
you guys are nuts, and no doubt about that. You go out there, and I'm just fortunate that my snowmobile made it, and I made it.
Dad's 79. He still snowmobiles every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd like to be able to do all that.
Yeah.
He still makes the Canada trip too, don't he?
Oh, yeah. He's in the
Yeah.
Yukon right now.
Is he
Yeah,
really?
he just took a trip in his camper, and he says, "Yeah, I'm going by Great Slave Lake." He says, in the town, and he goes, "There's a real nice river. We ought to come up here and fish." I said,
Wow.
"Let's go.
Let's
do it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's still going right at it hard. We're gonna get
So-
him on the podcast here right off.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that the other day when
Yeah.
I was thinking about Nancy coming up. Be good
Yeah.
to talk about some of those adventures. But
Yeah.
pretty good weekend last weekend, huh?
Yeah, really good.
We went
Yeah.
down to Hunt Stock, and
Yeah,
wish you guys would have been down there with us. It was
excellent.
quite an experience over the times we've been down before, just staying right there and camping and the nightlife and everything. Rick's and Nancy celebrated their 39th.
39th anniversary.
Oh, I see
Yeah.
I see the
Oh,
shots out
yeah.
of the moose antlers. Yeah.
Yeah, that was more than a shot, I'll have you know.
I look like a drink.
That
Yeah.
was like a half a coffee cup.
Well, I asked Candace if she'd done it any tequila out of there, and it sounded like she did. Sounded like y'all were
Yeah.
having
Yeah. Candace wouldn't pass that up.
It was great. I don't think anyone passed that up that day.
No,
many
even Joe, we got Joe in on it.
Half of it ended up on my front of my shirt. But
as many times as I've had shots, I don't think I've had one out of an antler.
No, I know. I showed that to the wife. I showed it to my wife, and I'm going, I got to do that.
Wait,
I had to
I
take
got
my
an
cowboy.
antler. We could do that,
gotta
Mike.
do that.
It was the times were so long I'd take my cowboy hat off to get the whole shot back.
Oh, my God.
Then I went over and I said, whatever you guys do, there was like, I don't know, 100 guys there that all come grab me. Rick, you got to do a shot. You got to do an antler shot. I'm like, what's this about? And I went, I said, oh, yeah, I got to do it. So they said, what do you want? I said, crown apple. So they put crown apple in. And
I see that.
so I said, whatever you guys do, don't tell my wife. She told me, don't get drunk, right? I can't get drunk. So,
too late.
no, I went over and she says, what have you been doing? I says, Well, I took a shot out of the antler. She goes, I got to do that.
That's awesome. She did it pretty classy looking.
She did.
Maybe,
It was a fun night.
Fun night. We had Taylor.
Excellent weekend.
Taylor Walker was down there with us. He was set up right next to us and
just
sold a pile of knives, which is happy to see.
Benoit
on the other
Oh,
side.
I love it. That's
great,
the one that
great
is your
group of
knives.
guys.
Yeah,
Those are
Taylor
awesome.
did great. I think he had a few left, but who knows? I don't know.
He
They
sold-
might be gone now.
told me he sold 30.
What?
He said he had sold 30 by like 3 or 4 o'clock
Holy
that day.
cow.
Yeah.
Did good. I mean, it's a nice quality knife. Looking
I
forward to
sold
testing mine out in Alaska.
242 grunt calls.
Holy cow!
Like I said, those they're going to be illegal next year because if I use one of them, they'll probably I was the bane of some of those
Did I
laws.
give you one?
I haven't got one yet. No.
Yeah, either do I, Rick, by the way.
Well,
I don't have one
We're
either.
going to be out there and both written. You see Mike and I being big trouble and be like, well, we were using this thing. You know, and you didn't realize
Mine says Labby.
I'll be like hitting. I must.
I gotta get you guys one.
I'm gonna say we're out there. And I was like, I'll tell you what. I'm with that video that has that, and same thing. He's out there, and those lures you're using. Gordon and I went out and using.
Northeast Trolls.
Is that what they call them?
yeah.
I bought some of them at the show there. And,
Nothing better.
2 years ago, I bought them, and then and then went out and I was watching your show. But Gordon, when he had his chest, had open heart surgery, he couldn't fly cast on, and we were using them. And,
Copper and red.
Yeah, I shouldn't tell anybody that, but that's what we were using, the copper and red. I used to use the wheat. Well, and now I just told everybody.
Northeast Troller. We want to tell everyone what the best lure is.
Well, you're telling the brand. I don't want them to all know what we're using.
There might be a run on them.
Yeah, it might be a run on them. Well, you're right. I wouldn't be able to get them. But it's like Gordon.
My favorite one of the year was after I told everybody what I was using on that little video. They were sold out. He told me.
No, really?
kidding.
Well,
sold out.
Gordon, the one we were using had copper and red on it.
Yeah.
And then actually Sally used that the last time we went fishing. She likes to. We were in the boat together, all three of us, and he's like, "Bring her where we're going. You can use a fishing pole," saying Sal, because he didn't want to have. He was in the middle, paddling.
Yeah.
It was fun with the way we were set up. It started with Taylor on the end, and our booth, and your booth, and then Lanny,
Craig, and
just
all
we
great.
just had a blast.
That's a good lineup there. Yeah.
Who's the guy that has the Northeast? I see him at the
Guys,
show.
It was what was great about it is Lanny.
I bought spoons from them too. Didn't they do spoons?
Yeah, spoons. Yeah.
I bought big I use Pounce and Bottom for Togue.
Yeah,
they're awesome. I like they look like the old Murray type spoon. They're big like that. Willow.
Yeah,
not willow leaf.
Christian Carlson, right?
Christian Carlson. Yeah,
he's going to be coming on with us here.
Is
soon.
he?
Yeah. We're going to talk fishing one last time just before the spring bites on.
He can tell me what ones he knows to work the best, but don't say it on air. And then Rick and I will look like we know what we're doing,
And we want to thank Gary Williamson for sponsorship. If he's the land man of Maine. If you're looking for a piece of land in Western Maine, call Gary Williamson. He's got a lot of land over there. He's the guy to see. His son's building an excellent cabin, so he can take care of it all for you.
And we just made we're selling a doe urine now that we just came out with. Should be. I think it's going to be a lot more popular as it gets closer.
Between the grunt call and that, Mike, we're not going to have to hunt anymore.
No. We'll just ride down the road and dump it out the window.
We'll dump a little of that out, and I'll have you get out and do a little call for me. And
little toot.
You do a little toot, and I'll shoot. Yeah.
Toot and shoot.
Toot and shoot.
Hey, that's what we'll call our next one. Toot and shoot.
Toot and shoot.
Garnett and Mike.
Well, I'll come guide a week with you. We'll toot and shoot.
I'm gonna let him.
That means something different to a lot of people. So
we'll let her up Mike's truck. Toot and shoot guide service.
Yeah.
My God. So what's different about it with the doe urine, because obviously urine's urine, but the difference is, and there are other brands that do this, but it's direct. There's no sitting on store shelves. It's going direct from,
right.
They collect it.
We researched
mid-October to late October. Collect it, refrigerate it. It's going to be shipped with with gel packs to
Gel
keep it
packs
cold.
to keep it cold. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's the real deal. It's not some synthetic
Fake thing.
fake thing,
And
right?
It's not the only one out there doing it that way, but it's one of the ones out
Yep.
there, and that is the best way if you're going to
Yeah.
be
So we're
using urine.
gonna try it this fall, and I think it's gonna go good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Should be popular.
so, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure you're subscribing to it. It helps us out having those numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
Subscribe my YouTube channel too.
what's it
Everybody.
called?
Rick Labby's East West Adventures.
There you go.
Yeah, I got a new video coming next week on last year's archery elk out in Wyoming. So it's like a 40-minute video, horsebacking in and all that. It's going to be a good one.
Garnett and I had our little video. It dropped last night.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I saw it.
Which was, it was just a fun day in the river.
Yeah, it was fun.
Great videography. We just didn't
left
catch a lot of fish, but we had a good time.
You guys are nice because, I'll tell you what a kind of guide I am. And Gordon laughed about it. I thought I left my flies on the bank, so the whole way down I was almost in tears.
He was stressed out.
I've
never seen Garnett stressed. He was stressed out.
I remember having them out. Sally had them right in the truck. Never didn't realize.
Thought you left $1,000 worth of flies. on the bank.
2,000, he kept saying.
Yeah.
So it's probably 500.
I've been there.
It's
I've done the same thing.
It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of flies. I was like,
Yeah.
holy cow! But
Yeah, they were back in the vehicle. We
they're
never
in the
took them out of the
never-
vehicle.
No, so
But-
that's how good a guide I am. I went in with one fly, and you had your fly, so I wasn't fishing. One thing about owning a raft, I didn't realize this: you don't fish or hunt. you bring your paddle, and then I had that set up for Gordon. I really wanted him to be able to shoot out of it this fall. I put it so everybody thought I put it for the fly caster to have that. I had it with the idea that you could lean on that front
and shoot.
Well, if you feel like you got to go down and do that, I'll be happy to go along and just sit there.
I'm I'm big into hunting with girls, so we're gonna have to get you a wig.
I'm gonna send Leah up. She'll like to hunt that way.
I bet you know what? If Leah wants to go hunting, I'd take you too. I mean,
I don't want to weight the front of that boat down. It makes it too hard.
You don't weight it. It's we were going in circles. I said I'm doing Uncle Ron. You watch all the other people when they row, they're like knowing what they're doing. There's Garnett. they made it look good on there, but I'm like
Doing a rotation.
That river with the rocks and stuff is hard to.
But you go up in the gorge?
No, I can't say where I went.
Okay, okay.
But we went in the river and we made it hard, and Joe actually had one really big one on, a really big fish.
Yeah.
And then, but we didn't
Lost him.
We didn't want that in the camera, so.
Yeah. Well, I really, I've been thinking about this ever since Gordon passed, and wanted to just do something to honor him. I'm glad you came up today.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so.
The area is going to miss him. Everyone.
I'm sure him and Bill and McKay are up there fly casting or flying right now.
I'm honored just to be here for this podcast.
We would. Thank
I
you.
want you to know that. I love you, brother.
Yep, I live with Mike, and I tell you what, Gordon, we just did so many things I can't imagine. My heroes from when I was a kid.
Got to keep the stories alive.
Yep.
Keep telling the stories.
Keep
that's
the
how you honor
tradition
them.
alive.
We got stories. They want to have us in here, Garnett. We'll tell them some stories.
Yeah, Mike and I did a lot of.
Remember that?
fishing.
Remember that we went in the clear cut with that cow that morning?
Yep.
That was a great one. We got to tell that one sometime.
Yeah. Well,
Was there a moose there too?
Yeah, there's moose.
Here's what happened.
Yeah.
We got our moose the first day, Garnett and I. So we were told we were going with the boss the next day. He had a bow hunter. So Garnett and I drank way too much beer the night before.
Didn't go to bed. Yeah.
So I think we were crawling across that clear cut when we were walking. But
We were right on the edge of the road. Where we were.
So we're gonna call, and he's gonna call. We're gonna call, and so geez, we start calling.
Big bull up there.
Yeah, and there was a bull. He was coming, and we knew he was gonna come. They'd see him first, but
they're
anyway,
supposed to bow hunt. Yeah.
This cow comes out across the cut, and there was one scrub in that cut of little bushes to hide
She was
behind.
right next to us, yeah.
And we were hiding behind them bushes, and she walked right up to us. Right up to us. And Garnett and I were like looking at each other like, and then Garnett
I go
would
good
call,
bait.
Garnett
Yeah.
would call. Then all of a sudden, Garnett rips a beer fart.
I think it was Mike that did that.
Yeah, see, I was. He says that every
it
time
was
we tell the
you.
story.
It was you, yeah.
Garnett ripped a fart, and it was from hell. And I'm
See,
like, I couldn't stand it no more. I had to get up.
He was videoing me calling, and that guy's supposed to be shooting. And,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the cow answered. The cow answered the fart.
And she
Anyways,
answered
whoever.
the fart.
And then I was like this. I go, what kind of bait? And all of a sudden you hear, kerpow.
A gun goes
And a
off.
gun goes off, and then Mike goes, what happened? I go, somebody shot our effing moose.
Yeah, somebody shot an effing bull, so we get up and we're
There's water come off like that, and we're standing there, and all of a sudden we realized that it was the Sport and Hal up there, and next thing you know, I was like, Mike had the camera, and I'm like with the camera like this, and I was supposed to be videoing them guys up hunting and stuff, and I turned and I was like this, and Hal goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, our truck's up there. Mike just went over. Mike, we'd been out, and he went over going down the wrong road. I could just see his hat. He's like this and going like that, and I was videoing, like, so I basically ruined the video, videoing Mike walking in the wrong direction. I was laughing. It's like,
How many miles
and
you gonna walk?
the whole video is us drunk telling stories down there. Like, I was like, holy cow. I was
Toot
like,
and shoot guide
toot,
service.
toot, like I said, toot and shoot.
The day before that, I was bringing a big bull out of Beatty, remember? Big ones, and coming up the hill, the clutch went in the truck. Out the backside of Owl's Head.
You were way before Owl's Head. You come
I
out of
was?
Mining Road. You were at the end of the Mining Road when I come pushed you right up on the side of the road.
But when did the state trooper come?
I was just, he's missing the story. We'll tell this another time then, because it's a good one.
The state trooper came.
Yeah, well,
He wanted to help us. We didn't need no
no, it wasn't help. There's blue lights. There's everything. So
Someone told me at the show this weekend that we should keep this podcast going, but then we should do like a adults only after hours type podcast where it releases late, so maybe we'll do that, and we'll just each we'll sit around and have a beer. Or
Now, if
drink or
that's the
something,
case, I will tell the story about when I was laying on the living room floor.
Okay.
I will tell that story.
When we go into the late show.
If it's rated R, I will.
The old Johnny Carson late show.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good one.
So, all right. Well, I definitely enjoyed this one, Garnett, and we'll.
That was a good one.
I think we'll all.
Thank you for doing that from Uncle Gordon, and like I said, I know he's up there fishing, and I hope my cousins and my cousin Brian. I hope he learned more. If you talk about hunting, my cousin Brian's an awesome hunter, and he learned it 99% of that from Gordon. So I hope he shoots the monstrous big buck Gordon would want him to shoot next fall.
Yeah,
308 and dumper.
Well, we'll do an update at the end of the season.
He'll get one.
Yep. Well, folks, till next time, Gordon Berry, shoot straight.